republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley. Amber Brown.
Here.
Jerry Sartain.
Here.
Joe Machado.
Here.
William Harper.
Here.
Renee Curtis.
Here.
Zane Cantrell.
Present.
We have a quorum.
You have the minutes of the March meeting. Are there any changes or deletions or improvements?
I make a motion to accept them as written.
Have a motion that be approved? Second. Have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. They are approved. These are very special times for all of us. The coronavirus pandemic that's going on, we've got to be very careful, and we do not have anyone in the audience because we're not allowed to have gatherings, large gatherings. So it's we have to be very careful about that. And if you notice, we're all at least 6 feet apart in the meeting, and I appreciate the Planning Commission and the Mayor's office for sanitizing everything in the building. And it's my understanding from the scientists, experts on this business, if you ever got the virus, it's a very painful, very nasty type of sickness, and it's something that you don't want. And we need to be very careful about that. Now, I understand there are some people that don't have symptoms to it, but we don't know how many or if they really do, or what the long-term effects, scientists are saying. We don't know what those long-term effects would be. So we're taking these precautions to make sure that we are not passing on any of the virus. We pass on a lot of stuff, but we hope not any sickness. So I'm going to ask Danielle to explain to everyone how we're making contact with those who would like to speak to us in the public hearing.
Okay, so tonight's meeting is conducted virtually through the Zoom meeting app, and our applicants or representatives of the applicants will be joining us through Zoom, and they will be able to present their case and answer any questions that the board may have. Then once the applicant has had the opportunity to speak and answer questions, then Zane Cantrell, Chairman Cantrell, will open the public hearing for comment. And anyone who desired to be a speaker at tonight's hearing was informed via mail that they could call by 12:30 today and get on a list to speak to the board on the item that they wish to speak on. And so we're working with our OIT department, and they are reaching out to each of these individuals, and when the public hearing for each case begins, they will be unmuted, their microphone unmuted, and they'll be able to voice their position to the board. And it will be held quasi-judicial public hearing just like we normally do. It's just virtual. So.
We will have those public hearings as we normally have, and give those who have a chance or would like to have a chance to speak either for or against a proposal here would have that opportunity. I'll ask the county attorney, do you have any further instructions for the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just 2 points. And the first, this board already routinely does, and that is that tonight's votes need to be by a roll call vote, which we already do because we're conducting this meeting electronically. So the Madam Clerk will go through each individual and ask A or nay to the motions that would be presented before you. And then point 2, I would recommend that somebody from the floor make a motion to the effect right now, make a motion that pursuant to Governor Lee's executive orders, it is necessary to conduct this meeting electronically in order to protect health, public safety, and welfare.
So move.
And we can practice with a roll call vote. How about that?
Any questions? Okay. We will proceed. The first item of business is we
think we have to do a roll
have is
call.
Brent and Jerry Reynolds. What do you have on that, please? Is that? Joe, did you?
I think we need to do a roll call on that motion. The motion that was made, we need to do a roll call on it.
On what motion?
Motion to continue with the meeting and virtually.
Okay, did you make a motion?
They did over there.
Joe, do we have a second? Second. Call a roll, please.
Okay. Amber Brown,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. Now, are we ready, everybody? You ready, Joe?
Got it all legal now.
Okay. Danielle, you may proceed.
Thank you. Application 2020-007, filed by Brent and Jenny Reynolds, involves the property at 2142 Newcastle Road. It's a request for special exception approval for an accessory dwelling that does not meet the design standards for ADUs, involving a property in the RM zoning district. And the applicant plans to construct an addition to the home. It will include a garage as well as an 800-square-foot apartment or ADU. And it exceeds the 25% max for attached accessory dwelling units. It's a 33% in total. So that automatically placed this request in need of a special exception approval. And the applicant has obtained the necessary permits from TDEC to serve the addition, and he plans to reside in the existing residence, and the attached residence will be occupied by a family member. Staff posted a sign on the property in advance, and this is the property off of Newcastle Road. This is the existing dwelling, and just the surrounding area, it's rural in nature. We received one informational call regarding this request. They did not indicate being in favor or opposition. They just had a question as to what the request was because they saw the sign. And these are elevations and plot plans of the proposed addition. So you'll see that it's designed to match the existing dwelling. And staff finds that the request meets the criteria for special exception approval.
Okay, I noticed that you are approving this.
Recommending approval,
Okay,
yes.
recommended it be approved. Do we have anyone here that's would like to speak for or against? I'm sorry, let me back up a little bit. For those who are making this request, either Brent or Jenny Reynolds, do you have anything additional that you'd like to add to this request? Now's the time to do
I don't think so. I think Danielle covered it pretty well. You know, it's just it's going to be an in-law suite basically for my wife's parents to come stay with us because they've been having some health issues. But yeah, it should look identical to the rest of the house, and I guess that's it.
Do you use that sewing machine behind you?
No, that's just for decoration.
Okay. It looks pretty old, so, you know, probably
sir.
an heirloom.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions from the board? We'll open a public hearing for this, for anyone who'd like to speak either for or against this request. Close the public hearing. We have a motion on it, or any further discussion?
I move to approve it.
Have a motion that be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Amber Brown,
Yes.
Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. And members, thank you for talking into your microphone. Sometimes it's hard to hear from up here. You'd be surprised. Jerry's been up here a few times, so please use those microphones and talk right into them, because acoustics are not real good here from up here. Of course, I probably don't hear very well anyway, so.
For the applicant's benefit, his request was approved, and I don't think you have to stay on the call if you don't want to.
Okay, our next item is a request for Southeast USA Incorporated. What do you have on that, please?
Okay. Application 2020-008 is a request for special exception approval allowing the establishment of a community assembly facility with a maximum occupancy of 150 to 500 persons on the property located in the RM medium density residential district. The property is located at 4295 Shelbyville Pike. The site acreage is 15.87 acres. It's vacant, and since this aerial was taken, it has been cleared. And they are seeking special exception approval to establish a community assembly structure for the purposes of religious and cultural activities. They estimate a congregation of 400 persons. They said that the building that is planned will measure about 17,000 square feet. The temple will be open mornings and evenings for 2 hours. 30 to 40 persons are expected daily during the week, and no more than 400 on Saturdays. So it's going to serve as a regional center for their congregation to go and worship and enjoy cultural activities. If approved, they'll have to submit a site plan application that will be reviewed to determine if it meets our development standards. And once it's determined that it meets the standards, the project will be presented to the Planning Commission for final approval. So these are photos of the site. We posted a sign on the property. We received one informational call, and I understand that one individual would like to speak on the case tonight. They are concerned regarding the type of buffer that's going to be provided adjacent to the residentially developed property. They share a boundary with the proposed site. And so these are pictures of the surrounding area. You have other worship facilities in the area. This is a conceptual plan, but kind of a first shot of a site plan showing the location of the parking, the traffic plan, the access to Shelbyville, the location of the building. These are elevations that were provided by the applicant, so you can imagine what the structure that they're proposing to build will look like. And they just supplied a survey and the floor plan of the building. And we found that the request meets the criteria for special exception approval for a medium community assembly and recommend approval.
Do you have a timeline on the construction of this facility?
That was not indicated in the application. Maybe if the applicant is joining us tonight, they can answer that question.
Okay. Do we have anyone from the community assembly that would like to speak or give additional information on this request?
Yes, sir. I am Ramesh Chandra Patel. I am the trustee of the temple, and we will start the construction work actually after the complete architecture and engineering drawing. I think it would be completed next year before March 2021. And then immediately once you get approval, we'll start the groundbreaking ceremony in July, and then immediately after that we'll start the construction. And it will take around 1.5 years to 2 years together.
Okay, so what I understand is that he said the building is expected to be completed before March 2021.
Before March.
That's what I understand. If I'm
Okay.
incorrect, please.
There is a time limit on these things.
Not special exceptions, but once they go through site plan approval, there is a time limit for them to begin construction once
Okay.
that plan is approved.
Okay. Any questions? Joe?
Do you have any problem with buffers if they require a buffer somewhere along the line?
There is no requirement for medium community assemblies in residential districts. You could request that they provide a type 1 buffer or type 2 buffer along the residentially developed properties. If you chose to do so, you may hear from someone who expresses their concern, and so that might help frame, what your recommendation might be.
Okay, thank you.
We'll open this for a public hearing. For anyone who'd like to speak on this request, please do so at this time.
Hi, my name is Kara Taylor, and I live at one of the properties that touches this property line. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. And I have some questions and concerns. Whenever we originally bought our property, we knew the property behind us was zoned residential. So we thought worst case scenario, it would be a single family dwelling that could be built behind us. With this is not, of course, a single family dwelling, and I could possibly have up to 400 people at the edge of our yard, every Saturday morning. So that's a concern because we are concerned with the noise level, of the property. What is going to be actually at the edge of our property? Is that going to be a parking lot? If it is, what's going to be built between us and the parking lot in that 10-foot buffer zone? We're wondering how tall is this building going to be? I see that it's proposed to be a 1-story building. However, the pictures look like it's 2 stories. And so I'm wondering, including the steeple, how tall is this building going to be?
Do you want to respond?
Okay. For the purposes of the record, Ms. Taylor, could you cite your address for the minutes?
Sure. It's 6045 Granny Smith Drive.
Right. And in regards to your question regarding the height of the structure, they are limited to 35-foot building height, and that would be verified during the permit review or site plan review. They will have to indicate the height of the structure and demonstrate that they meet that 35-foot height limit.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else? Please do so at this time. We'll close the public hearing. We do also have a recommendation of approval from the staff on this.
Ready for a motion? You ready for a motion? I would make the motion to approve and ask that they put the type 1 buffer along the residential section that's behind them.
Okay.
Second.
Along residentially developed properties? Okay.
Yes.
Second.
Got a second to that? Any further questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Joe Machado.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis. Zane
Yes.
Cantrell.
Is approved. The next item is a request by Herbie Viola, and this is, what do you have on this, please? I believe this is a major home business.
Thank you. Application 2020-009, filed by Herbie Vallada, is a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a major home-based business involving a pool construction business upon a property located in the RM Medium Density Residential Zoning District. The property is located at 222 Lamar Hill Road, and Mr. Vallada is proposing to operate his business of a pool construction company from this site. He's proposing business days and hours, Monday through Saturday, 7 to 7. He's proposing to have 3 non-resident employees that will report to the site. And he's also requesting approval for the following: storage of materials using pods measuring 500 square feet, storage of materials such as lumber and concrete under a tent located along the rear property boundary, and an existing approval to use an existing accessory structure as a workshop space, and additional storage. The applicant indicates that no more than 2 business-related vehicles will be parked at the site on any given time, and that no customers will visit the property. They are not proposing any signage, and this application is the result of code enforcement action, and the applicant is requesting approval for the special exception to become compliant with zoning regulations. So this is an aerial of the property that was taken in 2019. Code enforcement was notified of a complaint and a site visit was conducted. The applicant was notified of the items that needed to be corrected. One of those items was the removal of an older mobile home that was replaced by the new home that you see the address point located on. In discussions with the applicant and verified by code enforcement, that mobile home has been removed. And the applicant was asked to clean the site and also apply to operate his business from this location. He's located at the end of Lamar Hill Road. For the most part, the application meets all of the criteria for a major home-based business, with the exception of the storage that's being proposed for the pods. We have discussed this with the applicant and their agent, and from my understanding, it was communicated to one of our staff today that it's their intention to remove the pods. The applicant does have some square footage for detached accessory structure area that he could use to construct an additional accessory structure to provide storage inside and not visible from the outside. We have received many phone calls on this application, and I do know that we have several speakers that are on the list to speak to you tonight. Not everyone that called in wanted to speak to the board, but they did want to voice their support or opposition. We've had over 25 calls in support of the request, most of them indicating that his business operations are not visible from North Lamar Road, that it's at the end of a dead-end street, that they were in support of small business, and that Mr. Vallada does a lot of good for the area, and just in general support for small business. The calls in opposition were concerns that this was a business being operated in the residential area, the increase of truck traffic, dump truck traffic, which some of that dump truck traffic, I believe, is affiliated with a project down the road, and he's just being credited for that traffic. Also concerns with noise and dust, and just opposed to this request for a business in this area. We've received 4 calls from neighbors in the area that are opposed to this request, and like I said, the calls that we received, the 25 plus calls that we received in favor, they were sprinkled out in the greater area, but they were in support of the application. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Do we have a report from the building codes on this? Do you guys have any additional information?
Not yet, no, not unless the board has any questions for us.
All right, thank you. Do we have anyone here representing this request? This is time to do it. Go ahead.
Good evening, members of the Board of Zoning Appeals and Commissioner Cantrell, Chairman Cantrell. This is Brick Murphy of the law firm of Murphy and Goodman, and this is my first Zoom presentation, so bear with me a little bit. The application, as Ms. Gallner indicated, is for a major home-based business. The property is 1.8 acres on Lamar Hill Road at 22 Lamar Hill. The applicant, Mr. Vallata, operates a in-ground pool construction business. So folks call him at his home office on site, and they order a pool, and he goes to their house or their residence and constructs it. So, basically what he's going to be doing on site is some, minor material storage, 2 work-related vehicles on site, basically running a home business, a home business out of his home, which is a single-wide trailer on the property. So that's the basics of the application. There are going to be no more than 3 non-resident employees reporting to the site, no more than 2 business-related vehicles on site. There are no customers that come to the property. There's no showroom or anything like that. All the transactions are done via phone or email or social media. Moving to the next slide. The property is, as was stated, is 1.8 acres. It's on a dead-end road. 2 sides of the property to the southwest and southeast are Army Corps of Engineers. It's right there on the lake, and they'll never be developed, as far as I know. Then to the north is a neighboring property, and I'll show y'all when we get to the next slide here in a second. But 2 of the neighbors have pretty heavily wooded fence lines, and one of them, who's a friend of Mr. Vallata, also has some equipment, that sort of thing, and we feel like this is an appropriate use on a dead-end street in a low visibility area, and really there's no reason for someone to be pulling on to Lamar. It doesn't go anywhere. It dead ends into the applicant's property. If you'll go to the next slide, please. Slide number 4, please. You'll see from this slide that you'll see Lamar Road there, and then Lamar Hill Road, which is also in purple, runs from the, I guess that would be northeast to the southwest and dead ends into the property. As you'll see, it's heavily wooded along the southern, southwest, southeastern property lines. That's the Army Corps properties. And then you'll see that there are 3 abutting residences, all of which are pretty sizable lots with considerable setbacks and pretty heavily treed. One of them is pretty heavily treed. If you'll move to the next slide, please. As you'll see, we feel like we meet all the requirements. There's not going to be any signage on site. At one point, Mr. Vallata had additional business-related vehicles and some equipment, backhoes and things like that on site. Those things have been removed. And then if you'll go to the next slide and then the next one, please. That would be, yes, thank you. So if you see in the area marked as A, I hope y'all can still see me as well. The area marked A, that's where Mr. Vallata at one point had some dump trucks. Those have been removed from the site. The area marked as B, there were 3 box trucks on site. That's been reduced to 2, and those will be his 2 work-related vehicles on the site. The 3rd box truck has been removed. There was a tent on site, or currently is on site, where some materials are being stored. My understanding is Mr. Vallada's agreed to remove that tent. Then, as you'll see, labeled as E, there's a single wide trailer. That's been removed. It was scrapped and removed from the site since this picture was taken. And you'll see the area marked in F. That's Mr. Vallada's residence. He lives there and operates his home-based business. Receives phone calls, emails, that sort of thing from that single wide. And then we've marked an area in G, and that's a portion of the property that is gravel that Mr. Vallada has agreed to convert to cover with reduced dust surface, recycled asphalt, in an effort to reduce any potential impact on dry summer days where there may be dust migrating to a neighboring site. Marked as H is his workshop. That's where he keeps his tools, some parts, that sort of thing. Occasionally he'll pull a truck in there to change a tire or oil or something along those lines, but it's not a machine shop or anything like that. That's where he keeps his tools for his business. So that is our application. We would just request that you vote for approval, and I appreciate your time, and I also appreciate all the effort that's put into making sure that this hearing took place, and I appreciate the opportunity to be before y'all virtually, and I know staff has put a lot of effort into this, and I appreciate it. So we just ask that you vote for approval, and if there are questions at the end, I'd just like to reserve a little time in case neighbors have a question or two that the board would like answered. Mr. Vallada's present via Zoom as well, in case there are any business-specific related questions that may be more appropriately answered by Mr. Vallada. So thank you very much.
Do you know if the property in question is fenced, or are there plans where there may not be a fence to put in a fencing?
There are no current plans for fencing. As far as I'm aware, there's a fence, I believe, along the property line.
But it has a pretty good buffer there. You plan on leaving all that buffer trees?
Yes, sir. There's a fence along the line that would be the northeastern property line. There's a fence there, and then there's a really good buffer as well with the property to the north of that. So that, all those fence lines are staying in place. All the existing tree lines are staying in place. No intent to tinker with any of that. My experience is the best buffer is one that's there already. So existing tree lines and fence lines will stay intact. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah. So most of the activity that's taken place on this property, where is it happening at? Is it just in the workshop, or is there activity throughout outside of that workshop?
Did you hear that, Brick? Okay.
Yes, I did. So primarily the activities off-site. I mean, that's where the pools are constructed. Typically, Mr. Vallada's employees will come onto site, to get a box truck or two at the beginning of the day, go work off-site all day, and come back. That's primarily where the action is, so to speak. It's not like there's a machine shop or anything like that on premises. Occasionally he'll work on, like I said, a flat tire or something like that. But primarily, the trucks leave in the morning, they go to the site, construct the pool, maybe grab some, parts or something from the workshop, which is labeled H, and they're out for the day on site, constructing the pool. At the end of the day, or the end of the project, they bring the truck back, and that's pretty much it. So we're not talking about constant deliveries or a lay down yard or anything like that. It's pretty much just somewhere to keep his trucks, 2-box trucks overnight, and a place for him to keep his tools and some limited materials, some PVC piping, that sort of thing. But we're not talking about any sort of manufacturing or machine shop or a lot of deliveries. I mean, primarily it's leave in the morning, construct the pool, come back in the evening. If everything goes well, hopefully people are building a lot of pools, and he'll
get your
Thank you.
Any other questions? Jerry?
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. I appreciate your time. I've kind of got I've got A, B, C, D, and F here. I got to ask you, I got to read it to you and get you to tell me how he's going to comply. And a home-based business is supposed to be something that you wouldn't know it was there because it's private, and that's why it's residential. How is that going to be achieved?
I appreciate the question. I don't think that, given the size of the lot, that it's going to be impactful on the neighbors. I mean, if he, for example, had a small farm, it wouldn't be dissimilar. In fact, there'd probably be more equipment on site if he was farming or doing something agricultural based. So what we're really talking about is storing his trucks overnight and some limited tools and materials.
Bear with me in that a farm has 200 acres or something. It's not 1.8 acres. So
understood.
Okay.
Understood. I think the nature of the lot, it's in an area that two of the property lines are Army Corps. They're not going to be developed. You're not going to have single family residential houses abutting those two property lines. It's on a dead end street. The neighbor to the, I guess that would be northeast, has a similar sort of operations, got some trucks and things pulled in there. The neighbor that abuts that one to the northwest, and there's a considerable tree line there. My understanding is you can't see the house from Mr. Vallada's property or vice versa. And then the other residential property, there's a substantial distance between that gentleman's house and his, looks like a barn there. And Mr. Vallada's on good terms with him, and they have a fence there between them, and a gate where occasionally that neighbor pulls some his tractor through and that sort of thing. And so I feel like the location, the nature, and the unique layout of the property, that is, two of the major property lines are Army Corps, and the fact it's not visible from any pull through thoroughfares. Lamar Road is a pretty substantial distance from the property, and it's on a dead end. So for all intents and purposes, unless you unless MapQuest or your navigation system screws up and tells you to pull down the road, there's really no reason for anybody who doesn't live there to be on that street. So I feel like it's kind of a pretty unique piece of property, and that it's not going to have single family residential subdivisions abutting the property. It's not going to have a lot of people driving past it on a major thoroughfare. There's not a lot of traffic coming into the site in the morning and in the evening. And it's a pretty unique piece of property, the sort of property that this sort of exception would be appropriate for, in my opinion.
I noticed the applicant has said he's down to 2 box trucks. You know, he had skid loaders and all kinds of equipment there that I can imagine that a pool construction would require. Where are those vehicles now, and where would he be bringing them back there?
No, he wouldn't be bringing them, and they've been removed from the site. I believe the aerial list D, which is looks like a backhoe, that's been removed from the site. The dump trucks and other equipment and work-related vehicles have been moved. I mean, he understands what the requirements are, and that's 2 work-related vehicles on site, and that's 2 is 2, and that's not 2.5 for if he's got 2 box trucks, that's the limit. And so he's got those pieces of equipment and those dump trucks stored in another location, but just wants the ability to have those 2 box trucks there, at his residence, which operates his business out of in a way that we feel like is not that impactful. And he understands that if he brings additional equipment or trucks or anything on site, then he's in violation of the zoning if this is passed tonight, and that he can't do that. And so he's agreed to remove the pods and has removed the equipment which would otherwise have been violating the requested application. So 2 vehicles is 2 vehicles.
Yeah, the outside storage is not allowed. So if he gets rid of his pods and his tent and things that are temporary structures, will he be able to have room to put the things that he needs to do inside?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, he understands that.
We understood today there were 2 large trucks there, and we were wondering what that was about. His neighbors aren't happy about it, so we're concerned a little bit about they are the adjacent neighbors. There's more than one, and so that's why I'm asking some of the hard questions.
Sure, understood.
I'll let someone else answer.
I'd like to ask a
Renee?
question. Yes, thank you. How many nights per month does the applicant and his family physically sleep at this property?
My understanding is it's his primary residence, and he understands it's labeled that way, and that's his. That's where he lives. So,
Does he have children? Because I don't see any play sets or anything like that. Does a bus stop in front of this property?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I'd like to know the answer to that to prove residency.
No, I don't have any kids.
He doesn't have, what did he say? He didn't have children?
I don't have it. I'm not married, and I don't have any kids.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
That's Mr. Villana.
Thank you for that answer. Is there any employees that reside at this property?
No, it's me and the dog.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Rick. Thank you very much for your candid answers. We'll open this for a public hearing for those who'd like to speak on this. So this would be your time to make your comments.
Yes, hello? Hello. Yeah, my name is Jason Crouch. I live at 5254 North Lamar Road with my wife and son. We have lived here for around 17 years. Our home is on the corner of Lamar Hill Road at the entrance. My son is 13 years old and was born with a serious health problem, so he is homeschooled daily by me and my wife. A couple of years ago, we started noticing lots of activity and loud noises coming from the area behind our home at 222 Lamar Hill Road. We first thought maybe the area was being cleared for a new home or whatever the owner of the property had in mind. It was loud and disturbing and would begin very early in the morning and would continue all through the day until night. But we told ourselves, let our neighbors do what they need to do. They will finish eventually. But it did not end. It only worsened with dump trucks coming and going and also personal vehicles. They used the small street, Lamar Hill Road, to access their construction site. The street is only 90 feet from my house. This went on for months with dump trucks as well as personal vehicles, and occasionally we began seeing a semi-truck with a flatbed trailer transporting heavy equipment. We noticed these trucks had company logos. This would begin very early in the morning, around 7 a.m., often waking up everyone in the house. If you can imagine the noise inside of that, 90 feet from your home, this little side street, Lamar Hill Road, right beside our home, along with the sounds of heavy equipment operating just 65 yards from our home every day. It was really beginning to wear us down. We tried very hard to ignore it and hope it was still just a project or something that would eventually stop, but it didn't. One day our house began shaking and vibrating hard. I looked at the construction site and can see a guy operating a big asphalt roller like the type you see when paving roads, but this one he was using was also vibrating. It was a vibrator roller and was intense. These machines can damage structures. It looked like he was using it to compress the rock on the property. They used it for a day or two. I guess the entrance to Lamar Hill Road was not wide enough, so they widened it themselves. I guess it's easier now to get big trucks in and out for them. After all this and the vibratory roller, we had no other option but to call Rutherford County, to ask if someone is operating a business at the end of Lamar Hill Road. At this point, we were completely at a loss and tired. Today, I spoke with Richard Wright from Codes Department. He told me he had went out there 3 times, and neither of those times were they in compliance. On the application submitted under heading General Requirement for Special Exemption, number 1, quote, is so designed, located, proposed to be operated so the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected, end quote. Section E of that says the equipment used by the home-based business and the operation of the home-based business shall not create any vibrations, heat, glare, dust, odors, noise, end quote. We get plenty of noise and vibrations. Also under general requirements for special exemption number 2, will, quote, will not adversely affect our property in the area in which it is located, end quote. This does affect our property, which again is only around 65 yards from the construction site. In plain view, again, Lamar Hill Road they use is 90 feet from our home where we are adversely affected. The application submitted for special exemption seeks a major home-based construction business that is asking for 3 non-resident employees and operate from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday with 3 non-resident employees plus the resident totals 4 people, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, including Saturday. Let me ask anyone listening, imagine this major construction site this close to you at 7 a.m. in the morning until 7 p.m. at night, 6 days a week. We already know it is disruptive, and to be constantly awakened, it wears you down. You can't enjoy your own home. We can't peacefully live here if this continues, but how do we sell a home with a major construction business just a little over 60 yards away in plain view to see by any buyers, possible buyers? Just look at who like to look at satellite images before they buy a property. You can look at Google Earth and my surrounding areas. It's just it doesn't look well. We asked, please don't pass this special exemption. Thank you.
Anyone else? Next. Anyone else? Do we have somebody trying to reach us?
I would assume so. We have several people on the list.
Okay.
Yes, my name is John Shell.
Go ahead. Go ahead at this time.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
My concern was when I was looking at Exhibit 2 of this proposal, the aerial view showed all this heavy equipment there. And I'm very familiar with our heavy equipment and the problems they create as far as, noise and dust and whatever. I understand that some of this stuff has been cleaned up and moved, but where has it been moved to, and what's to say it's not going to come back? That it's not just done for this one particular, purpose right here to get past this zoning requirement. I mean, it looks like about 20 vehicles from this Exhibit 2, which, like I understand, some of it has been corrected, but I'm just concerned completely that it will be back, or just like the guy that was just talking on here. He lives at the corner of North Lamar and Lamar Hill, and I live right down the road from there. I'm very aware of the dump trucks and stuff like that, but they were using this road prior to this time, because I live right next door to where they were dumping all this stuff. It creates major damage to the roads, potholes. It was very disruptive every morning when I got up, and these dump trucks were over there backing up and making all kind of noises. And I can completely understand what the complaint would be about. I just don't want to see this kind of stuff starting up out here. And that's about all I've got to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Next.
Yes, can you hear me?
Give us your name.
Hello? My name is Chuck Yoder. I live on Weekly Lane, not far from Lamar Hill Road. And I do know the property that is in question at 222 North Lamar Hill. That property is really secluded back in there, and you can't even tell there's anything there until you actually physically pull into the drive. I do understand the concerns of the dump trucks. I think, I'm not sure of the man's name. He had dump trucks bringing dirt to him for over a month in that area, and they passed right by my house. I do understand exactly how people feel, but seeing the circumstances of the property and where it's located, and the fact that he's improved the property by 100% over there since he moved there, I think 4 or 5 years ago. And to my understanding, all of the equipment, the heavy equipment, is now vacated from the property. I can't help but to say that I do support the change. I think he should be able to run his home-based business there. And that's about all I need to say. I do think I support that.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Next.
Yes, my name is Adam Whitford. And I would like to thank everybody for
Could you give us your name?
putting this together. My name is Adam Whitford. Can everybody hear me?
Go ahead.
Yes. I have a small base business. I've been in Rutherford County for 20 years. I've owned a lot of small businesses. And I went through a similar thing like what we're dealing with right now about 15 years ago. The issues that I have with small businesses and the county areas and stuff and the home-based businesses, you have these companies, small companies that do most of their work off-site, and that's what I think that we've approached in this situation is the company is working 6 days a week for 12 hours, but it's leaving in the morning and coming home at night, which is no different than what your next door neighbor does every day. It's no different than what I deal with every morning outside of my house. I live on a major highway, and I deal with garbage trucks, dump trucks, the county equipment. I'm actually not too far from the county, so I hear all their street department and facility trucks pull out. It's something that we deal with on a regular basis. That's just part of life. You get up in the morning, you go to work, you come home at night. I think based on that, I think, saying that there's stuff going on for 12 hours a day, if he's working off site, then that's 12 hours of peace and quiet that you get every single day for 6 days a week. And that's more than what most of us get. I know with the way that the circumstances are in 2020 and the things that have been going on, that we're going to see a lot more home-based situations like this come up where we won't have, people having their businesses in commercial or industrial areas based on the fact that, you won't be able to gather or, whatever happens with whatever's going on. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this. I think at this time, it is time to take a change on some of these things and understand that the home-based business is what is going to become of what our area is. As long as he, follows the restrictions of the building codes and follows the restrictions of the order as far as, the small-based home business, I don't see an issue with him being there. So I am for this becoming a small-based business, especially in Rutherford County. And I'd like to thank everybody for putting this together so that we're able to voice our opinions on this.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else? Next.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi, is this Miss Sally?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say I support him having a home-based business. The Lamar Hill property is a side road. It's off of North Lamar. It dead ends right into his property dead ends right into the street. It's not visible from the major road of North Lamar. So I support him having a home-based business. And I agree with your previous caller that this is what it's coming to with the pandemic and all, is more people doing home-based businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Parton.
Anyone else?
Yes, Jennifer, we heard you.
Okay. I'm just making sure. I'm Jennifer Parton, and I just wanted to say I support this. I agree with everything the other callers has already said. I actually run a small business myself. So, small businesses, especially right now, this is how we make a living. And I know there is concerns, but I think with it not being visible to the street and him being in compliance, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Chairman.
Anyone else?
Chairman. What type of, Jennifer, what type of home-based business do you have?
Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to ask Jennifer, what type of home-based business does she have?
Well, actually, I don't have one like his. I don't do construction. I do cleaning. But if I were to ever have to need, equipment and stuff, of course, I live in the city, so I can't do that. He lives somewhere where there's no HOA, and I feel like, that's why people move out to the county where they don't have as much restriction on things like this.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Let's move on. Anyone else?
Hello, can I speak again? My name is Jason Crouch.
Go ahead.
He spoke earlier. He was our first speaker.
Jason Smith.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Not. If you've had a chance, we're moving on.
Jason Smith.
Anyone else? New.
Yes. I would like to say something on behalf of Herbie Villada. He has done some construction and cleaned that site up to where it looks very presentable. I have lived out here since 1980, before 840 and 15 warehouses. I live right in the midst of all those. I have 4 properties on North Lamar Road. I've done construction out there myself. I see no problem with what he's doing. He has tried to abide by the rules by cutting down on some of his equipment, but he's just trying to make a living. I understand there's rules and codes and things you have to go by, but with all the pandemic and the industry that has come with 840 and all the stuff that's out here, the guy's just trying to make a living. He's not out to upset his neighbors, and I have 4 houses close to him, I have 18 acres on that road. I personally know 16 different people that live on that road. If you're on that road, you're making a loop. I mean, it's not a through road. He doesn't disturb anybody in that area. I've seen all his equipment, everything he does. I think he's doing his best to try to make a living tonight. I think we should approve him trying to provide for himself and do what he's good at. I believe sometimes we get restricted on some things and appease our neighbors or do whatever we have to do, but I think sometimes there's exceptions to that, and if they're willing to make an effort to try to abide by those rules and try to make a living. Again, he doesn't have a construction site there. Like one of the neighbors said, he did clean up some area there, which was probably a temporary noise, and that happens anywhere you live. They built 5 warehouses in front of my house, and I had to deal with that. Didn't like it, but it's just part of growth, and there's nothing you can do about that. But I'm in highly favor of his home-based business and letting him do what he needs to do to make a living.
Thank you. Anyone else? Next.
Hello? Hello?
Go ahead, Chad.
This is Chad Roan. I'd just like to say that I'm supportive of him. We're all just out here trying to make a living. I've heard a little bit of everything. I understand there's complaints, and there's also good in everything. And, you know, the guy's trying to make an honest living. He's not out there trying to beat nobody up, disturb nobody. I'm kind of in the same situation. We're trying to make improvements to our property to help. We're trying to help the neighbors as we go. If somebody needs something with equipment, we're right there to help them. And, you know, the guy has never done me wrong. He's always done good to the people around here, of everybody I've heard. And, you know, I've heard some people complain about roads. How did these roads get here? They was made by trucks. And, you know, I know a lot of people hate trucks. But if it wasn't for trucks bringing in these materials, you couldn't build your houses. You couldn't have your yards. You couldn't have your swimming pools. All these nice amenities you have starts with a lot of this equipment. And, you know, as long as he's complying with the rules of Rutherford County, keeping his place presentable, I am 100% behind him and agree with everything.
Okay, and that's what we need to hear, Chad.
Like I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Next. Anyone else? Make contact. We will close the public hearing this time. Do we have any further comments from the BZA?
I think Codes was out there today. I would like to hear from Codes what all they seen today.
I'm Courtney Martin. I'm with Rutherford County Building Codes and Code Enforcement, and I was out at the property today. When I went out on the property, there was only 2 box trucks. He did still have a pod on the property, and he had a couple of pieces of heavy equipment. He did make sure to mention to me that he had planned to remove those. Other than that, there was some men working in the shop, 3 people tops, so he was within the number of employees he had. I didn't see any big dump trucks, any kind of construction going on. It was relatively quiet when I was out there. I did receive a call after I left, however, that there were dump trucks brought onto the site the same day. I wasn't able to verify that, though.
I notice in your review, Danielle, you make the statement here that not all of the standards are met. Which ones are you talking about?
Well, the use of the pods for
So
long-term.
you said several of the general requirements for
Right.
special exemption.
Okay, so the use of the pods for the storage of materials is prohibited by code. In our discussions tonight, the applicant has indicated that the pods would be removed. They understand that that's not allowed. So that visual, the appearance of the property and the outdoor storage, it didn't meet that criteria. However, the board could, that's just not permitted. You couldn't include a condition to allow that. The storage of the materials such as the lumber and concrete under the tent, you could allow outdoor storage. You have in the past, and if you wanted to permit the storage of even any of the heavy equipment, it's within your purview to allow that. But the testimony that we heard tonight with the noise and the vibrations, you might want to take that into consideration because that wasn't anything that we were aware of during our review.
The thing that bothers me is that if we have standards that are not being met at this time, there's no assurances that standards will be met later on. I think that any time we have a proposal before the board, it ought to, at that particular time, meet whatever standards that we have. It's very difficult to go back and take a look at this after we've made considerations on it. I'll open this now for a motion. Anybody like to make a motion on it? I need to give these folks an answer one way or the other.
I'm going to move that we deny it because he doesn't meet all the criteria, plus the safety issues that might apply to this.
Second.
Repeat that again, please. Joe?
I'm going to move that we deny it because of he doesn't meet all the criteria, plus the safety issues that have been brought up during this.
And we have a second.
Second.
Can we have
Any
discussion?
further discussion?
Yes. Specifically, I don't know if I can do this, but specifically, items A, B, C, D, F, items 1, 2, I mean, there's multiple things that he does not meet for our consideration.
I think that's what Joe has in mind in his motion.
Don't we have to call them out?
That those.
There's no legal requirement that you be that detailed. It sometimes helps. So if you want to add to or amend the motion that's on the floor, Mr. Sartain, if you want to add some additional reasons to support the motion, you can state those.
Well, but that's got to be okay with him, though, right?
Well, you've got a motion on the floor, and now you're making a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor.
You want to list those?
Home-based business that we've approved in the past was not industrial in nature. Everything about this is industrial. It does not comply with, it changes the appearance of the outside, the storage, the vibrations. The delivery vehicles are not like it says here, express carriers, UPS, FedEx, or DHL. Those are not the type of delivery. This does not conform to a home-based business. That's what I got to say.
And are you also generally talking about that it doesn't meet the general requirements in 1408C? And that would be number 1, is so designed, located, and proposed to be operated so that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected?
That's correct.
What about number 2, will not adversely affect other property in the area in which it is located?
That's true.
Number 4, shall be located so as to be compatible with the surrounding area and provide safety to those using the facility.
Taking that as an amendment?
If that is Mr. Sartain's desire.
Okay, do we have a second to the amendment?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second to the amendment. Do we need to vote on the amendment first?
I think that if everybody understands what the motion that's currently on the table as amended, you could just do one
But
vote.
we need just one.
That's right.
Okay, does everybody understand this? I think the attorney has made it clear for us.
Yes.
I hope so. Call the roll, please.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Joe Machado.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes, it is denied, and we have the reasons listed. And I want to thank everybody who participated in this evening. We hope by June we'll be back close to normal, but if not, we will not put any lives in danger. We will continue to handle the Board of Zoning Appeals the way we have tonight. I've been very pleased with it, and I thank all of you board members for your cooperation and the way you've handled this as well. We are adjourned. Thank you.